So we've had some demoralizing news recently. We found out that even though Alex Jones perjured himself in his trial, his legal team failed to hand over discovery during the discovery phase of the trial. And the jury, in all of its infinite wisdom, which is zero, decided that his just punishment would be to pay the families of slaughtered children $4.1 million after treating them horribly. So that was bad. We also have learned that apparently the SDNY, which used to do a good job about bringing criminals to justice, has decided that Rudolph Giuliani apparently hasn't done anything wrong vis-a-vis his behavior in Ukraine. So yeah, that's it's been a rough week in that regard. On the other hand, though, we've also learned that accidentally, Alex Jones's legal team also handed over detailed records of 2 to 3 years worth of text messages from the phone that Alex Jones claimed had absolutely no relevant information on it. So not only were there many, many texts about Sandy Hook, which again begs the question why the jury didn't impoverish him for the benefit of Sandy Hook families, but apparently there were quote unquote intimate texts between Alex Jones and Roger Stone. I'm sorry to put that picture in your head, but what I'm hoping that means is that they were speaking intimately about insider information they had relating to the insurrection on January 6th and could potentially implicate other people, shall we say. Now, we know that there was something worth seeing on his phone because both the January 6th Special Committee and the Department of Justice want those records turned over to them immediately. So on balance, I'd say that the silver lining has pretty much chased away the clouds. So I really look forward to seeing how you look in orange, Alex. Cheers. So we had some primary elections this week in some key states. And the bad news is that quite a number of candidates who are pro big lie, pro conspiracy theory assholes won. People like Kari Lake in Arizona and secretaries of state who, by the way, are going to have control over over how votes get counted in their states, but also how election results get reported, which means that they basically ran on promising the voters that they would cheat to ensure that Republicans win, no matter what the voters think. So this is a pretty dangerous state of affairs. I think there is one potential upside to this, and it's that it should anyway give voters in those states who didn't vote in the primaries or who voted for their opponents in the primaries, but basically more independent, center-left Democratic voters, a glimpse into what the future holds if we allow people like the Kari Lakes of the world, who are not just unqualified, but they're, I mean, I don't want to let them off the hook by calling them insane. They're opportunistic grifters who have seen their mark and decided that this is the best way to succeed in the world. And listen, why shouldn't they think that? Look at their dear leader. I mean, Donald Trump has been grifting his whole life. That's pretty much how he got where he got. Look at Alex Jones, who at one point, simply by lying, acting as if he were full of rage, spreading conspiracy theories, and being an utterly despicable, hateful little man, was making, and I'm not making this number up, $800,000 a day. In 1 year, his company raked in $70 million by lying, stoking hatred and division, and just being an all-around scumbag. So, yeah, the Kari Lakes of the world, they get it. They've gotten their marching order. They know what to do. They think to be successful in this Republican Party. I want the voters in the general election to look very, very carefully, because we have an absolutely crystal clear picture of what things will look like in this country's future if we let people like that gain any more power. So, as much as I hate the fact that these people are in the conversation, or that there's even the slightest chance now that they might win, I also think it's better to know what monster we're facing and fight it on our terms, right? Because I think we've already seen what a future with, let's see, people in power who are willing to lie, cheat, steal, and essentially make cruelty their governing philosophy. We've seen how that works out. So let's do better next time, shall we? Something really weird happened this week. Yesterday, I looked at the front page of the Washington Post online, and I hope you're sitting down. There was not one piece of bad news. Like, I literally don't remember the last time that happened in the last 6 years. I don't think it did. I mean, I honestly don't think we had one day without any bad news on the front page of a newspaper in this country. So that was really refreshing. And one of the main drivers of that was the fact that in Kansas, there was a ballot initiative on Tuesday's election day about abortion. Now, in, I believe, 2019, Kansas passed legislation that protected abortion rights up to, I think, 22 weeks. And the state legislature, of course, in the wake of the Dobbs decision, wanted to strike it down. And this ballot initiative gave the voters in Kansas the choice. Yes meant no abortion rights, period. And I'm pretty sure it would have been one of the strictest, most extreme abortion rights bills in the country, by which I mean there would have been no access to abortion and no exceptions for anything. And probably if it was like Missouri or Georgia, life would have begun at conception. So the really good news isn't simply that the ballot initiative failed. It's that it failed spectacularly, considering that Kansas is a solidly red state. They lost 2-1. So 60% of Kansans, including a significant minority of Republicans, voted against this draconian bill that would have stripped the rights away from millions of people in Kansas. So not only is this good news, because of course, whenever those who seek to take our rights away are defeated, it bodes incredibly well for the midterms, and Democrats need to learn that message. What the Supreme Court did in the Dobbs decision was so egregious, was so horrific, that people are paying attention. People are crossing party lines in order to vote to get our rights back. In the meantime, however, I just want to remind everybody that there are at least 8 states in which trigger laws went into effect as soon as the Dobbs decision came down, that made abortion illegal in all cases. And there are a lot of women and girls and pregnant people who are going to suffer horribly in the meantime. So that should just make the fight all the more urgent. But in the meantime, thank you, Kansas. You're awesome. Never thought I'd say that, but seriously, thank you. As a lot of you have probably already heard, Nichelle Nichols died this past week. She, of course, was Lieutenant Uhura in the original Star Trek series and has been associated with that groundbreaking role ever since. She was such an inspiration. She was a totally beautiful, kind, talented person. And Star Trek came on the air when I was really young, so I don't think I started watching it until it was in reruns. But Nichelle Nichols, or I should say Lieutenant Uhura, was one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Star Trek characters. And so when I was watching that show when I was 6 or 7 or 8, she was my first role model. So I've always had a really soft spot in my heart for her. So she will be missed. But we are all so lucky to have had her for as long as we did in our lives. So thank you, Nichelle.